Okay, let's dive into this. You know, when we think about digital identity, our minds usually jump straight to logging in, right? But what if that's just scratching the surface? What if the real game changer isn't about getting in, but about proving specific things about yourself to get work done, instantly and securely? Today, we're going to unpack a framework called UID that completely flips the script on identity.
I want you to really think about this for a second. What if the very systems you built to manage everything, your people, your data, what if they're the biggest bottleneck you have? What if your own databases are what's actually keeping you from moving fast and grabbing huge opportunities? It's kind of a wild thought, but it's a really critical question.
Because the costs? They're hidden. This isn't just about waiting an extra few seconds for a login screen. We're talking about the cost of lost agility when it takes you a quarter to integrate a new company, or the cost of filtered, dishonest feedback because your top people are afraid to speak their minds. And yeah, it's the cost of those massive opportunities you miss because you just can't get the right expert in the door fast enough. And all of this leads us right to what you could call the corporate identity crisis. It's this quiet, invisible problem that's happening behind the scenes, creating friction and risk in ways that most leaders, well, they just never even see it. So, do any of these sound familiar? You know, mergers that take forever to get teams actually talking to each other, big strategic plans that get a green light, not because they're great, but because no one wants to stick their neck out and raise a red flag. Or that frantic, weeks-long search for a specialist to solve a crisis that's happening right now. And, of course, that constant nagging risk of a massive data breach. See, these aren't four different problems. They're all symptoms of the exact same underlying issue. So, how do we fix it? Well, the answer isn't some little patch or a software update. It's a fundamental shift in the whole architecture. It's a new way of thinking called verified privacy, and it's all about building a brand new foundation for how we establish trust. And the key to this new architecture is UID. That stands for Universal, Integrated, and Decoupled Identity. Now, universal and integrated are pretty easy to get, but the magic word here, the one that changes everything, is decoupled. Just imagine showing a bouncer an ID that only proves you're over 21. It doesn't show your name, your address, not even your birthday. That's exactly what this does for business. It separates the proof from the data. You can prove you're qualified for something without handing over your entire life story. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the fundamental shift in control. The old way is basically a giant liability. You collect all this sensitive data, you put it in one big central pot, which makes it a huge target for hackers, and verifying anything takes slow, manual checks. The new way? It puts you in control. Trust isn't based on a person checking a database anymore. It's based on an instant, unbreakable cryptographic proof. All right, so that all sounds pretty cool in theory, right? But what does it actually look like when the rubber meets the road? Let's explore how UIJDID actually works on three different strategic frontiers. So here's frontier number one, strategic honesty. Every single leader wants the unfiltered truth. But let's be real. In a big corporate hierarchy, giving truly critical feedback on a CEO's pet project can feel like a career-ending move. So what happens? Groupthink takes over, and sometimes really bad ideas get pushed forward. This is where a system we'll call the executive oracle comes in. A senior leader can generate a temporary, totally anonymous alias to submit their honest critique. Then, the system uses something called a zero-knowledge proof, which is basically cryptographic magic that lets you prove something is true without revealing any of the underlying data, to confirm just one thing, that this feedback came from a verified member of the leadership team. The board gets the absolute truth without ever knowing who said. And the strategic value here is just immense. You're not just getting feedback anymore. You're getting unfiltered truth from your most qualified people. And that is probably the most valuable asset you can have for making big, high-stakes decisions. Okay, frontier number two, agility. Anyone who's ever been through a merger and acquisition knows this exact pain. The deal is signed, the press release is out, but all the actual work is totally stalled because the IT departments are trying to merge two completely different, insanely complex HR and security systems. With a UIID system, employees hold their own verifiable credentials in a secure digital identity vault right on their phone. Think of these like tamper-proof digital badges that prove their job title or security level. So, to access a system at the new company, they don't have to wait for IT. They just present the digital badge, the system verifies it cryptographically, and they get access instantly. So, what's the strategic value? It's day one operational agility.
you completely eliminate that frustrating lag. You get your best people working together from the moment the ink is dry on the deal, letting you capture the value of that merger right away.
And for our third and final frontier, let's talk about pure speed. A crisis hits, your systems are down, and you need a very, very specific type of expert to fix it, like yesterday. The problem is, your traditional hiring and onboarding process, background checks, security clearance, that takes weeks. The crisis will be ancient history by then. This is what enables a liquid talent marketplace. An expert maintains a portfolio of these verifiable trust badges from their past employers. When you need them for a 48-hour crisis gig, they just share a cryptographic proof of those credentials, again, using that zero-knowledge magic to prove they're legit. Your system verifies it instantly, and you can grant them high-level access in minutes, all without you ever having to collect or store their personal data. The value here is simple, but it is so profound. Instant trust deployment. It's the ability to find and deploy elite, world-class talent at the speed of the crisis itself. Now, when you start to put these three examples together, the honest feedback, the rapid M&A, the instant expert, you realize this isn't just some minor tech upgrade. This is a true paradigm shift in how businesses can operate. It's the beginning of a new economy based on verifiable, instant trust. And I want to be super clear here. The difference we're talking about isn't incremental. It's not a small improvement. It is a complete strategic transformation. And this table, well, it just illustrates the whole thing brilliantly. Just look at trust latency. It goes from days or even weeks of manual work down to literally instant. And data liability? It drops from this high-risk GDPR nightmare of storing personal info down to minimal because you're verifying without storing. Agility goes from low to high, and the quality of your feedback goes from filtered and fearful to honest and protected. So, the crucial point, the main takeaway, is this transformation. We are moving from a world that is slow, risky, and filtered to one that is instant, secure, and honest. This isn't just about a new login system. It's a fundamentally new way to run a business. And that really leaves us with one last big thought. In your organization, in your industry, what becomes possible when trust is no longer a bottleneck? What new partnerships, new products, new solutions could you create if you could establish trust with anyone, anywhere, instantly? That's the real potential we're talking about here.